Everyone, and welcome to my comeback special. Been gone a while, hoping to hop back into making new videos, many reasons, but without too much ado, I wanted to get into one of my favorite champions of this year, or I guess last year now, Adam Warlock. And Adam Warlock is a very special champion to me because I've always just thought, it's Adam Warlock. He's a fucking cool guy. Space Jesus. Going up on his moves and abilities right here as I'm going to be talking, and essentially I just want to make a video about him because I feel like he's pretty underappreciated in the meta right now. I think most people kind of just see him as a crazy damage dealer, and that is very much true. He is a little bit lacking on the utility side. I'll be talking about that during the video. Some things that I think probably should be done for him just to make him a little bit more viable as a champion. But all in all, I think he's pretty fantastic. I think he is a staple for Battlegrounds, whether people want to admit it or not. I think he is pretty much in most people's decks if they have him. He's a very strong defender, believe it or not, which a lot of people look past his defensive ability. I'm going to be showcasing that in this video. And he is probably one of the quickest attackers. He's also one of the safest attackers because of that unblockable. Going over his abilities there, y'all can read that if you want. If you're familiar with him, you can just listen to me yap. But essentially, what I'm going to be going over is his damage ability. I'm not really going to be talking very much about synergies. I will show them here in a second, but they're pretty much negligible. He has one with Silver Surfer. That is kind of cool. But besides that, he's mostly just out of the box, ready to go. His Sig ability allows him to stun when they attack into him when he's in his stasis pod. That's really good, but it's also not a need to have. It's kind of just a nice to have. It's like, oh, just a little bit of extra safety. It would kind of be negated just by a little bit of quality of life changes in his pod. He should be debuff immune and not just immune to most energy debuffs. And he should probably also have passive Intimidate and Infuriate. But besides that, I honestly think he's pretty perfectly done. He's not top of the class. I haven't made a tier list in years, and I probably won't be making a tier list again just because I know a lot about this game, but I don't want to. It's just hard to compete with the big dogs of the tier list. So I'm just probably going to skip past that this year. But essentially, I would probably put him in the second highest tier for Cosmics, just because he does have some pretty discernible weaknesses. However, for what he does, damage-wise, he is the best. He does hit harder than Hercules, maybe not a fully ramped Hercules in incursions, but he does hit harder than Hercules. He has some pretty freaking cool utility. He has an ability that is often looked past, which is his ability to get more combat power after being power drained. Which actually does allow him to bypass some of the weird power drainers that are going around right now with a lot of tech champions, i.e. Viv Vision. He can go right past that that little power drain that she has on every medium and light hit, and he can actually gain a little bit of bonus power from it. But his damage is really the thing that you need to be looking out for. That was a 50-second fight. Rank 2 7-star is what I have. He's probably going to be my take to rank 3, one of mine, coming up. I have 2 right now, which is America Chavez and Guillotine 2099. I should have done Lady Deathstrike. I know this, but I didn't have her awakened when I had the gem, and it's just a whole thing. But something I definitely very much regret is not taking Lady Deathstrike, because she's one of my favorites, and I'll probably do a video on her at some point this week. But yeah, he's probably going to be one of my next rank 3 7-stars just because I love this character. I think he's very underrated. I think people had such high hopes for him that when he didn't exactly meet all of those hopes, they kind of just threw him away. But he's insanely good for Battlegrounds, which is the focus that I like to put on the game, is if he's good in Battlegrounds, he's usually good in most other content. He's pretty good in questing. He's never good for any of those like final bosses in quests, just because keeping up his sovereignty meter and just keeping up his buffs is very stressful. But for general questing, I used him a lot in the latest, I think it was Act 8.4. I used him actually quite a bit. Just because he can kind of breeze through stuff, and if it's a node that is dependent on time, probably not going to have to worry about it too much. But his damage output is probably one of the highest in the game for Cosmics out of the box, and with his ramp up, I need to think about it, maybe a fully ramped Turk, maybe could out damage him, but with those 3 Furies, he's hitting 60k mediums just casually, and he has the precision too, so you don't really need to worry as much about RNG with the crits. He's pretty much always going to crit when he has that precision, which is going to be for about half of his sovereignty meter, so probably about 40% of the game he's going to have that up. And again, if you're hitting that high for 40% of the game's going to be over pretty quick. I wanted to showcase him against Star-Lord because that's 3 million health that he can kind of just whisk through, which to me is crazy. Again, you know, Hercules is always going to be the big elephant in the room whenever you're talking about a cosmic damage output or just cosmic, how good they are in general. But I do think he has such high damage and just such niche ways that he can be played that I think he kind of does, I wouldn't say overlook, but he moves past that little Herc, that Herc, the word I'm looking for here, caveat, we'll just say. He moves past that Herc caveat because his damage really is just that high, and he also has stuff that Herc can't do, which is he has like 15 immunities when you pop the stasis pod, and he'll get him for about a minute. And that doesn't sound like very good, but when you think about how fast Adam's going to be clearing out most of the stuff he's put into, if the fight's lasting over a minute, and it's not like a 3 million health like the Star-Lord here, then you're probably not going to be wanting to take Adam into it anyway. So I think those immunities are actually not, I wouldn't say they're not niche, I would say they're actually very useful. In Battlegrounds, it's very useful if you're going up against a character or a node that's going to hit you with energy debuffs, or I like to call them like hazard debuffs just because they're like Cold Snap, Shock, Incinerate. I think he has a couple more. He's not immune to bleed or poison, which makes him relatively unfriendly with suicides, but he takes very little recoil damage off his special 2, which is interesting, and I didn't recognize that at first, but once I started playing him more and kind of testing him a little bit more, I realized that after that special 2, he's in his pod, he takes 75% less damage. With recoil, he's usually going to take 1%, which is, again, if you're a perfectionist, not ideal, but otherwise pretty negligible. So he is pretty safe with the recoil aspect of suicides, and if you have that Nick Fury synergy, or you're just okay with losing 10% bleed, you know, maybe you want to run him with suicides. It definitely makes him hit a lot harder, as it does every champion, but for his case where he's getting all those crits and those furies, you will notice a difference. Not an insane difference, but you will notice it. I never run suicides in Battlegrounds, pretty much ever, under any circumstances, and that's mostly what I use him for. So, probably never really going to be needing to run him with suicides unless you're doing him for questing, which again is not his strongest point, but it is a pretty strong point for him. I would say that he has a lot of potential in questing. I wouldn't say that he's the best, especially just when you have Hercules. Again, it's just such a strong shadow to live under. Gladiator kind of feels that himself, because I actually like Gladiator too. I think Gladiator's a pretty cool champion. Big fan of him in the comments. Yeah, again, against Hercules, especially since he's still pretty relevant as a 6-star, you're going to get a lot of people telling you, oh, he's not as good as Hercules. But he is a better defender in Battlegrounds than Hercules, which I find interesting. I'm showing you guys right here a little video I got today in Battlegrounds. Actually, I was trying to find some content for this video, and I was kind of up against the wall. It was 1-to-1, and I was like, fuck it. I'll just put Adam Warlock down and see what happens. And initially, I thought this would be kind of a blowout, especially because I was taking Absorbing Man against Rintra, just kind of a weird fight. I pulled it out a little bit on the attack. You're getting some bonus max rank Absorbing Man here. But I pulled it out on the offense. I think I only took like 75% damage. And I was expecting Adam just to kind of get destroyed because I didn't really see him as a defender, but I realized that he does have kind of a Photon-esque mechanic. It's not as good as Photon, where it's just guaranteed damage that these people are going to be taking unless they know the parries. But he does have the ability to just go unblockable during a special, and that is pretty crazy. So a lot of people will not anticipate that or try to dex it and then get hit by it, and then it gets activated anyways, and then he's in his sovereignty mode and he's got true damage, and pretty much over from there, especially if you've got a rank 2 Adam from the 7 stars. So something to consider. He is actually a pretty good defender. He's a good defender in even high-level Battlegrounds, which I was not expecting, but something to consider, especially because if he's a dual threat, and especially how good he is on attack, maybe somebody to consider having your deck. It's funny, this Absorbing Man fight is nothing like what I should be talking about in the video, but end point is, after that quick KO with Absorbing Man, about 78% health, you see I get a win, which is shocking. Adam Warlock, she beat him with 15% health, which means I can guarantee you she got hit by either a special 1 or a special 2 to the face just because he threw that unblockable. She was either trying to dex it or just got hit by it. And that's something that you want to consider with Adam. And it happens a lot. And then, of course, as an attacker, he is mind-bogglingly good because he's able to get that access to that damage. And even without the Furies, the damage is actually quite good, especially if you stat focus him for critical damage, which is one of the highest stat focuses in the game because it's critical damage and not something crazy like prowess. You're actually going to be hitting quite hard even without the Furies. That is showcased in this fight. I believe I do get to a Fury at the end of the fight, but I take down most of his health just with Adam. And also, you have to consider him against Kingpin and Atuma is something I've also found is fantastic because Atuma really punishes you for those parries, and Adam doesn't need pretty much any parries whatsoever. Kingpin doesn't need any parries. It turns them into very, very easy fights, very quick fights as well, because Adam can get access to that damage in 30 seconds. That was a 30-second takedown, I believe, on that clip I just showed y'all. So don't discount Adam. If you have an Adam, I would highly recommend you rank him up 6-star or 7-star because he really doesn't need that awakened ability all that much. It's a little bit better for defense, but again, you're really only throwing Adam on defense if they don't have a Mystic, and his ability is really mostly geared towards Mystics if they're able to shut down that pod or not, and most are not. So this is something you got to consider when you're playing Adam, is if you have the resources to make him viable, because if you don't, he's not so good that he's just going to go in as a 5-star and destroy people in Battlegrounds. However, he is quite good. The damage is really, really good. The defense potential is actually quite high. So a lot of people kind of crapping on Adam a little bit. I'd ask them maybe to take a second chance. But at the end of the day, it's y'all's resources, it's y'all's champions. If you don't have him, maybe consider trying to get him. And if you do have him, maybe consider giving him a rank up. That would be my professional opinion. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much going to be the end of this video. Thank y'all so much for watching. I hope I made a good comeback, and expect more content soon. Thank you very much.